Today is August 15th. The Yankees lost game 1 to the Braves badly. We got sharp stats. We got bantering with Boone. Watching Yanks tonight on the Yes app. Lots of fun stuff. Let's talk Yanks. John Boy and Jake.
Recaps galore, weekly awards, stat lines, theme, and hot takes. Get your Yankees news from these two fine dudes. It's time for Talkin' Yanks. Talkin' Yanks with old John Boy and Jake. Talkin' Yanks with old John Boy and Jake.
Hello and welcome to Talkin' Yanks episode 945, brought to you by SeatGeek. My name is Jimmy. His name is Jake. BBD in the corner. We got sharp stats, a positive one, I've been told. Looks like it's about Volpe because his name is on the board in front of me. And Boone will be joining us for 30 minutes to talk base running. Maybe. I don't even care. Jake, how are you?
James Davis. I'm good. I was excited to hear about the sharp stats because I actually got caught into that last night. An extended Yankees friend, Joey Libs, reached out to me just out of pure Yankee sadness. And he was like, can you give me the best Volpe butter knife you got? And I was like, I'm interested. So I dove into some Volpe numbers last night. And yeah, again, turn it into what things matter. In theory, he's going to matter. And there's going to be some cool judging him off-season stories that come up. So I'm already getting ready for that. And yeah, I mean, We'll see where Boone's at. I know we want to have him guess my weight. I got that measured.
I think we might have him do that when he comes to the office and maybe have him pick you up.
Okay.
Hands under the armpits, you know?
Okay.
Have a stack of watermelons. How many watermelons do you think Jake is with a giant scale?
And yeah, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if I'm looking for rock bottom, but the YouTube algorithm has started to feed me a lot of weird stuff, a lot of horse hoof with puss in it and stuff like that.
Well, you like that stuff.
Yeah, but it went to a different level. I just got a video. I fed my prairie dog to foxes, and you know that's not a lane I want to go into.
You got to be careful with the animal stuff. Yeah,
I like animals.
Yeah, click it and watch it.
And yeah, the Yanks are the prairie dog. So,
and the Braves are the Foxes.
Every team is the Foxes.
Well, not the A's. Perfect game, their butts.
Not the A's.
Not the Royals.
That pitcher's no longer with our work. Well, he is, but he isn't.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
So
he'll be back.
Yeah.
Our guy Clark got and that was a bummer. You know, that was a bummer. And
yeah.
then all their comments after the game were like, "Damn, that lineup, they don't quit.
Yeah."
They beat you in multiple ways." Boone actually did have some comments that were like a little bit of shots fired, like where we're trying to get to. Like a little like, hey.
He did. What year did they have the presser that the league caught up?
Oh, dude, that's where I was. The league closed the gap on us. That was after 2021. And I it's not worth like asking Boone about that because it's just annoying. But we do a lot of talking, right?
Yes.
And when you do a lot of talking, and he does 2 press conferences a day, 162 games, you say shit. And sometimes we meet people on the street, or like I met a guy at Yankee Stadium once, and he like said a line to me. And when I met Boone, he said, took one of my things that I said and like argued it. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember that at all. I wonder if Boone knows some of the sticking points is what I was getting at. Like closing the gap, close the gap is a term that I think most Yankee fans that are on the internet and like are listening to post-game press conferences, was one of the tougher, more like, oh shit,
yeah,
you guys, whoa, and he might not even remember saying it.
Yeah, and that's I wonder if this is going to come up. You mentioned the word delusion. Before I talk about delusion, can I tell you about Harry's? Because it's not delusional.
Yeah.
Jim. It's the best shave of your life.
Now, Harry's is spelled like the man's name.
Yes.
But is it a double entendre? Is because Harry.
I think it's like inverted.
Is it wordplay?
I think it's wordplay.
It certainly is working as that.
Because Harry's, you're actually going to shave with their high-quality razors to skin products like exfoliating face wash and hydrating lotion.
Double entendre, a word or phrase that is open to two interpretations. So maybe stretch, definitely wordplay. I never knew it was wordplay until this second.
Right.
Just hadn't occurred to you.
Because all you got distracted by was their value. Because it's a $13 value for $3. So, okay, that's in your price range. That's in your price range. And if you go to harrys.com/Yanks, you'll get their 5-blade German-engineered razor, yes, with the weighted handle, the foaming shave gel in a travel cover. Oh, take it to Deutschland. Show them you fit in. Get the $13 starter set for $3. harrys.com/Yanks. There's a link in the description. Because you're right, Jim, we did get a healthy mix because there's been a little bit of delusion. That we're fascinated by and we hate. And that was mixed with a little bit of the humble pie last night because Jack Curry was even impressed in the postgame that they were complimenting the Braves, basically the first time they've said that there's a better team out there. But also the base running quote, which was just atrocious because during the broadcast, David Cohn noted that they are the worst base running team in the league and get out more. And, the Orioles are number 1, the Yankees are last. And then for Boone to say, I think we're pretty good. It just
stands out because we're always in close games, so they hit harder. I don't know if you saw our notes yet, but I phrased a question around that quote that I think is you're trying to take all my questions and not make them just like a pissy, angsty fan,
right?
And like
not trying to start a fight with every question,
and maybe expand it outside of that one moment. And
it's more all encompassing. The question.
So I do have an all encompassing question that tackles that quote a little bit. Teaser.
Tough, man.
Skip to the 32 minutes, 30-second mark for that.
Not accurate.
Could be.
It might be.
No idea. So you're not accurate either.
I'm not accurate, but you're not accurate.
I would guess it's going to be earlier.
And that's
that.
a double
I'm going to take the under.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Volpe.
Okay.
And I want to hear all your butter knives.
Hey guys, it's the Queen of Stats, and this week, shocking, I'm actually going to talk about something positive. Yeah, because I'm sick of these terrible Yankees. So let's talk about something positive, and that something positive is Anthony Volpe's improvement. Now, a nice inflection point that we have is that chicken parm dinner. I believe it was around the middle of June. We're going to use since June 13th as the inflection point here. And the biggest improvements that I've seen in him and that the stats say since that date have been in basically just his overall production and the contact quality that he's had since June 13th. So I'm just going to give you some numbers here, and these are really good. Just remember the context that we're thinking about. It's a 22-year-old rookie shortstop playing for the New York Yankees. So before June 13th, he had a 605 OPS, and since then, it's a 769. That's a nearly 200-point increase in OPS. His weighted runs created plus, which is basically a value relative to league average for your overall production. You can find it on Fangraphs. It's jumped from 66, that's 34% worse than league average, to 114, that's 14% better than league average. Again, a great improvement for a 22-year-old rookie. His strikeout rate was 31% before June 13th. Since then, it's just 23%. And then now in terms of contact quality, there's a measure on StatCast called sweet spot percentage, which is basically hitting the ball with the ideal launch angle between 8 and 32 degrees. That was 34% before June 13th. Since then, it's 41%, which is a great increase. And then he's also using all the fields. He's going to all fields more. So his opposite field percentage has increased by about 4 percentage points from 21% to 25%, and his pull percentage has decreased by about the same amount. So basically a lot better contact quality, striking out less, and spraying the ball to all fields. And if you want to look at his plate discipline improvement, that has been more since the All-Star break. So since the All-Star break, he has just a 9% swinging strike rate. Before that, it was 13%. If you look at his chase rate, it's just 27% since the All-Star break, and it was 33% before that. And both of his rolling 15-game rates, his swinging strike percentage and his chase rate, if you look at those on a rolling 15-game basis, those are at their lowest points of the season right now. So a lot of great things that we've seen from Volpe over the past 2 months.
All right. Butter knife and Volpe. Good stuff. Sean Casey, wow, huge credit to him with on-base percentage and good eye. And chicken parm the rest of the way. Invert that stance.
There's a good moment if you're watching on the YouTube, which I recommend. I clicked the June 19th date, or the June 13th date, excuse me, and I was like, wow, these numbers are better than I remembered. I was still on Stephen Kwan's page when we were talking, but the numbers like kind of looked in
They were in a
worlds,
believable world.
and I was like, wow, he's been killing it. Okay, so I love what Katie brought to the table there. We need to change some of our tones just to survive this season. B, this is when we like to tap into the predictive stats, because when you're talking about barrel rate and swinging strike rate, I got mad last episode that it felt like, the Yankees statistically had gotten away from like win a game today and do the result on that, and I don't really care about the exit velo or where it lands. Where these stats come in is the predictive stats can help predict where we're going, and Volpe has been on an upward trajectory, and it's easy to forget. Oh, it's not easy to forget how young he is. He's very young. He's 22. And it has felt better. I know most of this was offensive, but the defense has even gotten more sound. Like, I remember there was a point, I feel like in May, where we were like, hey, Volpe, you got to tighten it up a little bit. And he for sure has, and he's been a good defensive shortstop. We've talked about the arm strength a lot, and, I think there's development there. But Dansby Swanson, I think he's the best shortstop in the game, and his arm strength is weaker than Volpe. So that it can be something you work with. Now, offensively, the number where Katie Sharp did, and this factors in last night's game, since June 13th, 51 games, pretty big sample size, especially for what we have for Volpe.
Mm-hmm.
245, 333, a 769 OPS. Now, that's not crazy. That's not, taking down the world. For the shortstop position, that's still very good. Or good, I should say. And when you tie that into the fact that he's 22 and that he showed improvement to get here and that we've seen visible changes, we can be excited about Anthony Volpe, because I think, and this is what my friend Joey pointed out last night, those statistics aren't far off from Francisco Lindor and what he's done all season. So it's kind of an interesting scope of shortstop expectations, production, his youth, that if you can get those kind of contributions from a shortstop, it's very valuable. And, it hasn't felt like Volpe's clicked at all. Like, I tried to find his hot streak of the season, and there was an 18-game stretch where he had a 962 OPS. So, that's 3 weeks of playing elite all-star level, baseball. So, but he's really only had one of those. And again, I'm not trying to say that in a knocking him down way, but it feels like you still see a lot of funky swings from Volpe, or out of control, kind of not great swings from Volpe, that I don't know. When we go back to the drawing board and we look back at the PPP from earlier this season, or when we're looking at next year's player profile and projection for Volpe, he has shown a lot of good, but it does feel like there's a lot more to go. So that's kind of your glass half full, glass half empty.
Yeah, when you compare him to shortstops around the league, it's not a bad look at all things considered. So he's not a flashy shortstop. And if you accept that, there's two things you have to accept with it. Okay, then we need the bat to be really good. He makes the play shortstop. He has an 81% success rate on balls hit that he gets to, and that is the highest of all shortstops in Major League Baseball.
Like that.
So when he gets to balls, his success rate's there. Now, he doesn't have that many outs above average. He has 3, which places him, I think, tied for 14th. So that's middle. So as far as flashy, he's middle tier. But you can exchange that for making all the plays you get to, which I will accept. That being said, you need offense then. Now you need to be a top 10 offensive shortstop if that's the defensive profile, in my opinion, which since Chicken Parm, he has been in all metrics. He rates out at the 9th since then, which is a butter knife. So like if you're an opposing fan, you don't have to accept that number. But since then, I think in OPS, he's 9th. So he's top 10 at a 792. Even average, which he's got a 251. He's got to be lower, right? Yeah, he's 18th in average. But it was like OPS is 9, on base percentage 10, weighted runs created plus, he's 8th. So, but if he can get the offensive profile way up and keep the defense how it is, I would like that. The one thing, Jake, that we've said a bunch, and I think is my official, unofficial prognosis, because I'm not an expert baseball mind.
Okay.
Is when he's swinging for line drives, he's awesome. Since the adjustment, out of all shortstops, he has the 3rd highest line drive percentage behind Ellie De La Cruz and Bo Bichette. The difference is those two guys have a fly ball percentage in the low 20s, and Volpe's is a mid 30s, which is pretty high. And that's exactly what you and I were saying about those home runs he hit. Like those were line drive home runs. He does have some warning track outs and home runs that are fly ball home runs. And his fly ball to home run rate is 16.7%, where Ellie De La Cruz is 30. So like if he hits one that's a fly ball that's got some arch, it's fucking gone. Where Volpe doesn't have kind of that ability to launch balls like it's home run
Can I
derby.
tell you why? Ellie De La Cruz is listed 6'5", 200.
Yeah, and he's 22. He could develop a lot of muscle and get there.
Volpe's listed 5'9", 180.
That's what I'm saying. So
5'8", 160.
I also think, and this is really undiagnosed,
Yes.
just my brain that I'm sharing, again, not expert, is I think we haven't seen a prolonged good stretch, because when he has a good week, it's like he feels like I'm going. Now let's pop some homers, and then he loses his swing. That's how I felt. It's like we get those line drives, those gaps, and then all of a sudden now he's chasing the homers. And if he could just stay at that line drive swing, he would be like very consistent on a tear.
Yeah, and
all that's growing pains, and all that's just my thoughts. Which if you tell me I'm a dumb idiot, I'm all right, sure.
It's
That
speculation.
can age anyway.
It's
Yeah,
speculation, but that's kind of what we do a little bit on here. That I was furious. One of the times we saw him get hot, I think it was one of the first Chicken Parm times when we were butter knifing, was leading into the All-Star break, and the Yankees had moved him back down the lineup, and it started to click, and I begged them, and it's not something they believe in, to keep him down in the lineup. You found something. And then they immediately slid him up, and the final 5 games heading into the All-Star break, I don't have these numbers up, but I'll get them in a second. The Yankees were looking for a miracle because this roster's been a disaster, so they slid him back up. Speaking of Miracle Made,
wow,
Jim, speaking of miracles, did you know that your temperature at night can have the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? I bet you did know that.
dude.
I've seen you run hot. I've
Very
seen you
much
run
don't like
cold.
sleeping hot at all.
Sleeping hot's tough.
It's not a good time.
Nobody likes sleeping hot.
Some
Sneaky,
people do.
nobody likes sleeping too cold.
There's a point of
If you have
no
enough
return
blankets.
on
You just need blankets.
There's nothing you can do about hot.
We had the AC cranked up when I was in Scottsdale, obviously, and I didn't have enough blankets, so it was kind of this ironic, like I was 1,000 degrees outside, like 10 feet away from me, but I was kind of freezing inside. Miracle Made Uses silver-infused fabrics, make temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at perfect temperature all night long. They sent us some. It's now in our sheets rotation. Jess watches sheets arguably too much. I mean, I realize I'm a ridiculous boy in this situation.
No, Katie watches it's like once a week or it's like twice a week.
She puts it like in my...
She puts it in your basket.
We'll save
so
those
you have
issues.
to wash it.
We'll save those issues for the end of the program. What this has is self-cleaning design for your skin. The silver, that's why it's in there. 99.7% of bacterial growth can clog your pores, and we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of that, and you know it's got to be comfortable and quality material. So go try miracle.com/Yanks. Try miracle.com/Yanks. Get your sheets today. Save 40%, and with your promo code Yanks at checkout, you get 3 free towels. This is your set you need. This is your right now, if you're looking at your towel and your sheet set and you're in kind of a cycle, this can break it. So go to trymiracle.com/Yanks. Use code Yanks. Save 40%. Click the link in the description.
Fellas around my age, if you have 3 towels and they match each other, that's going to go a long way.
Yeah,
wow.
It's impressive.
One more thing on Volpe as I click around the stat pages. According to Fangraph's pitch value, he has struggled with sliders, major league sliders, which I think is normal as a rookie, and you can make the adjustment. Judge made a crazy adjustment from 21 to 22 on sliders. He's also struggled with splitters when he does see them. I think that's because that's a pitch you don't see that much, and splitters are kind of nasty when done right. But he's done really well against fastballs. He has the second best, according to these stats, he's the second best fastball hitter out of all shortstops in Major League Baseball. But sliders are he is the third worst against sliders.
Yeah, that's not great, Bob. That being said, we've talked about that a little bit, and who was it? Oh, I think it was with Trev, and he was like, you have to hit fastballs. Like, that's the start. Like, if you can't hit
Boone said it last week, too.
Yeah, if you can't hit fastballs at the major league level, you won't be a major leaguer. So, yeah, we can build off that. And I personally love, and you guys will probably hear me say this in a couple months, if you have something to work on in the offseason, Volpe, it should very clearly be breaking pitches. I like that. You can work on that. Target
good against
that.
curves.
Okay. I'm excited for that. We even saw that one, Judge came in. The one weakness one year was changeups, and then he kind of came in and broke the home run record. That
was sliders. Last year he struggled with changeups, but 2021 he was bad at sliders, and then he switched his stance in 2022 and crushed sliders.
Right. Just circling back on 2 things. You mentioned the defense and not making the highlight level plays. Again, that can also improve. Like, that can get better. You can work on your lateral range, like having the routine plays in the bank, especially as a rookie. That's very impressive. That can also improve. There's room to grow there.
He has the pure speed that's not crazy at all.
The range shouldn't be a factor. Again, if the arm can develop a little bit, maybe that can help. Dansby Swanson is second best in outs above average. So there's a world where you can figure that out more. And just kind of where I was with the Volpe in the bottom lineup, and I mentioned trying to find his hottest hot streak. From June 11th, he was hitting 186, 260, 605. Scary. Then in the 20 games after that, 354, 417, 1.017 OPS. This was hitting primarily 9th, 8th, 1 game in the 6 hole, or 2 games in the 6 hole. This led up to July 5th. The All-Star break started July 10th. The 4 games after this, so that's a 20-game stretch. That's his best stretch. I missed it a little bit yesterday. 1 dotted. That's very impressive. There's not a lot of guys in baseball that can do that. They slid him up to leadoff for 3 games, and then they moved him back down to 8th for the last game heading into the All-Star break. He went 1 for 15. So could that be a small sample size? Absolutely. Could that be a 22-year-old kid getting slid back up top after having his first hot streak and trying to do too much. It could also be that. He also, if I remember correctly, which I rarely do, there was a couple bad lucks there. I think he drove a couple the opposite. He had one like bad luck game in that stretch where we were like, damn, that kind of sucks. But that's baseball.
Yeah, you know I'm over that. I'm over the Yankees using, and I agree with it time to time, but the Yankees have just used that as like, well, we hit into some bad luck, and it's like, I'm fucking over that.
Right, going back to the Gary days of
that
the Voight
reasoning
days.
has to be few and far between.
Start hitting it elsewhere. Yeah. It's baseball. Moylan and I had a good discussion last Friday about how they just promote kids now that hit it hard and throw it hard.
Yeah.
Because he was saying
Franchi.
that the Yankees are bad at base running and fundamentals. But, man, I mean, we saw the Rays, the Astros, the White Sox be sloppy as shit, like real sloppy baseball. And Moylan was like, yeah, they don't you don't need to know the fundamentals and the in-between the crack gameplay to get promoted anymore. You hit it hard, you pitch, throw it hard. It's almost like you get promoted through the batting cage more than like the field these days.
And that's one of the Yankees' main problems when we see the base running errors, when we see the bad baseball. It's because the Yankees treat everyone like the consummate professional that they're like, well, they'll take care of their business.
Yeah. No, these guys are pros. It's like, well, coach them.
Coach them up just
Make
a
them
little
play
bit.
like pros.
People like knows, you know? When you're looking at like managing coaches, like, hey, don't steal right here. Thank you, coach.
Yeah.
I now know how to not fuck up. Limitations are great.
And I probably won't mention it with Boone, but he's a big USC guy. I remember it blew my mind as a kid. The USC Trojans, when they were in their prime college football, one of the stories came out, and this is, little sports Jake trying to make my way uptown.
Little sports Jake.
AOL screen name Sports Jake. Take that. The headline was the USC Trojans don't have their players run sprints. And I was like, what? Like, I'm in middle school, early high school. Like, run sprints. That's, I hate that. My asthma kicks up. Like, maybe I should go to USC and play football. Never played down football in my life.
Did think about becoming a male cheerleader, though.
Did. But what happened at USC was, they were a bunch of competitive college kids that they would run sprints after practice to compete and try to get better. And if you screwed up at USC, they had another 5-star recruit behind you to sub in. So that's where like a mentality like that, like, oh, well, you don't have to do wind sprints, but if you want to play and be a star, you can. Where the Yankees, this laissez-faire thing just doesn't work. Like seeing all the Braves in the lineup every day. We're in an interesting spot because, some people aren't
Jake
happy.
shaking the desk.
Some people aren't pleased that a lot of my tweets aren't happy, but
really?
What do you do? They're just like, it's not your personality. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it wasn't.
I had a great one yesterday.
One of the hardest first to third base runners I've seen this year was Austin Riley when the Braves were up 8-2. Braves,
Billy McKinnon eraser, I guess.
Braves third baseman, not built on speed.
No. Young, thick, big peach butt.
He that sprint speed will surprise you though. But it was a single up the middle to Harrison Bader, one of the best defensive center fielders, and Austin Riley got in there without a throw. Bader ends up throwing a second because he was just on his horse and like good secondary and going. And then meanwhile, Harrison Bader gets picked off down 6 runs for no reason. So yeah, man, I think coaching matters. Like, listen, if you're a baseball fan, how many Ron Washington stories have you heard? Like so many. Coaching matters.
Stamped.
Hey, let's talk to the head coach of the Yanks.
Manager. He manages
coaching.
the coaches. The coaches coach, and they report to him, and he manages the coaches. That's the tree.
We'll draw up a tree after this.
That kind of blew my mind when Trev explained it to me that way. I was like, wait, the managers don't need direct contact with the players? He's like, no, not like a lot of times. You talk to your coach, and then
guys that
the
you
coach
manage.
talks to your manager. And I'm like, fuck, I thought about this all wrong. I thought it was Little League.
Who's the Braves batting coach? Then we learned it. Kevin Seitzer.
Yeah.
We're talking to Boone, and it's Bantering with Boone, and it's been brought to you and will continue to be brought to you by Vizio. What's the V mean, Jim?
Zoom?
Value.
I was doing the Z.
Yeah, that was crazy. Vizio has award-winning TVs and soundbars at insane prices. And you can, some of their TVs have Zoom modes. That could be what the Z is for. We'll give up, at the end of the episode, we'll give a whole Vizio. Is it an anagram or is it a Enneagram?
Enneagram. Xenon.
Where you find out your personality. My personality has a lot of TV in it. I'm constantly watching sports. And Vizio, if you're a baseball fan, their Watch Free Plus comes with MLB Network totally free right out of the box. 4K screens, under 500. Get the sound bars. I'm losing my hearing, so I will need more sound. Head on over to Vizio.com to check out how you can elevate your viewing experience all season long. Vizio, value. Elevate your audio video for the MLB season. Click the link in the description.
Bong, Xenon. Welcome, Bantering with Boone. On it's August 15th, mid-August. How about that? Booney, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
How many people call you Aaron? That's a quick question. Like wife, mom. Is it very limited, or do you have a whole crew of people?
Not a lot.
Brothers?
No.
They call you Booney? Or a...
My, who?
Your brothers. Your brother.
No, my brothers call me Arnie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Not a lot of people call me Aaron.
Laz
Actually.
did the other day.
Laz did?
Yeah.
You know who calls me Aaron sometimes? Garrett calls me Aaron sometimes.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Aaron.
All right. Oh, there he was. All right. Okay, another tough week-ish and tough injury news since we talked to you last, and a tough game last night. My one big conversation I want to have or question is that what, with all the guys, Nestor on the IL, Rodon banged up, DJ banged up, Rizzo still out with a concussion. At what point, is there a point where internally you guys will discuss the benefits of maybe letting the injured guys rest up and using September to get a foot forward on 2024 and seeing what you got out of the minor league guys and change the tempo and goal of the season? Is that conversation going, or will it happen at some point?
Well, I think regardless of what happens, I think there's a couple guys very much in the mix to become a part of it, as part of a, solution to try and get some things going, or in the scenario you described. So there's a couple guys knocking on that door. Those are conversations. I wouldn't say we're having in earnest right now. We've been out on the road, so it's, we're not there connected, where you're just in the presence of front office and things like that. So, right now we're just in the throes of trying to win. Like that's where the focus is.
Yeah.
And obviously we've taken some hits lately from an injury front. We should be getting Carlos back next week. So, I think he's in a good spot there.
Yeah. I just wonder genuinely if there is, at this point, being 5.5 games back, I think more behind than the Yankees were in 2016 when they did call up the young guys and did kind of change the goal of the season. This team is at or now behind that, where, even rushing, or I don't know if you're rushing, but bringing Rodon back. We just saw Nestor come back through one game back on the IL, where there is a point where it's like, hey, this season isn't what we thought it was going to be. Let's make sure you're 100% healthy for next year. But the other side is maybe him pitching at the end of the year helps him get healthy next year.
Yeah, no, I think we're not rushing Carlos. If anything, the conversation was to keep him pitching, because he certainly felt like he could. It was minor enough to where he might have been able. We just didn't want to put him in a bad spot where he's trying to really gain some traction, and obviously the long-term commitment we have to him, and didn't want to put him in a position to go out there and maybe be okay, but probably be in a little bit of jeopardy of hurting himself a little bit. He should be in a good spot when he's ready to come back and hopefully pitch for us next week. He's got a live sim game tomorrow in Tampa where he'll go, quite a few pitches, and then hopefully he'll be in line from there.
And yeah, I think it's funny in any walk of life, people use their experience. I worked in electrical supplies and distribution for 6 years, and it'd be funny. Everyone would come in 6 hard years. Everyone would come in and be like, "Oh, well, this one time we did this," and everyone goes from their personal experience. This group of Yankee fans has the personal experience from 2016 with Gary coming and Judge coming. You mentioned a couple guys, and I know they're not going to get. This isn't you calling them up, but we've heard Pereira rumors. Obviously, there's been Peraza rumors for the past couple years. Are those two of the main guys? Is there anyone else out of the loop that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, those are two of the guys, in that conversation. Obviously, Peraza's been in that conversation for a while, but Everson's season that he's put together has put himself into that conversation. And you also want to put those guys in good positions to be ready to come up and have a chance to impact and be successful too. And, in Pereira's case, he's put together a really, really strong year at AA and now AAA.
Are there any players or if there are any players, at the end of the season, when the playoffs end, there's usually a press conference, and there's always been one player that's like, and actually he's been battling this, so he's going to have surgery on that tomorrow. Is there a check-in right now? Like Judge mentioned, he might need surgery at the end of the season. There's push comes to shove at one point. It's like, hey, let's get that now and get you an extra month's recovery, or DJ's banged up. Or
I don't think that's on the board. I think Aaron was answering a very vague hypothetical question. Like, I don't know. I may need,
Yeah. All right.
But you can never rule anything out. But I don't think we have any of that going on right now. We got to see what comes of Nestor. He's going to be down a few weeks of no throw. Hopefully that is something that kind of does the trick with him. Shoulders are always tricky a little bit. But he'll be the one to watch and to see, hopefully he's in a position after a few weeks. I think he's 3 or 4 weeks of no throw, to see how his buildup goes and to see, and we should get hopefully a firsthand look at that as he's kind of getting back on and building up his throwing program, hopefully in the month of September.
What was the timeline there? I mean, he looked great in his outing, 9 Ks in 4 innings or something like that. Like after he gets off the mound, does he let you guys know, or is it the next day, or what was the timeline?
No, so the next day he was really sore, but which is kind of typical sometimes when a guy throws a big outing, and he was sore in what you would say is all the right places, which is how, sometimes starting pitchers describe it, or trainers. But it was the following couple of days where he wasn't really able to get into his throwing program. So we had the leeway to push him back to the Saturday game. And then on Wednesday in Chicago, he went out and was able to do his throwing program, was able to complete his throwing program, and it had improved, a decent amount from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He was getting better, was able to let it go a little bit. And then Thursday, when we got to Miami and he was going to throw his bullpen at the stadium on the off day, he really couldn't even get going. And that's, obviously that's when we had to pull the plug on it.
Well, I stumbled. I don't want to say I stumbled into luck, but when we've been thinking bigger picture now, and that's kind of where we're at. And Michael King's got a pitch mix that's reminds you of a starting pitcher. And he's got a couple years in the minor leagues with, I think it was 140 and 160 back to back. He's obviously been electric out of the bullpen. I mentioned Yankee fans' experience. Everyone's got a little Jabba bug that's still in the back of their head. But I said, I was interested in stretching out King. You guys put him in the starter role. I know there's been openers too, but what do you guys want to see from that process? Obviously it's performance based, but is it a, 40 pitches, 55 pitches, or what should we be looking for? And I guess what should Kinger be looking for in this process?
Yeah, I mean, it's day to day. I mean, just and what we obviously didn't get a lot of length last night, so we had to use our guys. Hamilton and Abreu picked us up pretty big time in that we didn't have to use everyone. So most guys are available one inning. I'd like to, in a perfect world, stay away from King tonight, but he's got to be available on some level, obviously. And then, coming off a 41 pitch, 2-inning outing. Tomorrow would be his 4th day, so a 3-day rest. So he could be in play for any role there. Probably more in that 45-50 pitch range now.
And yeah, reports were that he still wants to be a starter and is asking for it, which makes sense. Every pitcher wants to be, especially when he does have that pitch mix. And then they said, this is something for next year. Is this something that is being done now just to make it an option next year? Because it seemed like coming into this year, you loved the switch army. He can give you 3 here. You can close one day roll.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's still kind of evolving. I mean, the thing is, if possible, and again, the day to day changes, so it prevents you from doing some things. But if we can get his pitch count built up a little bit more, and then, use them in bigger spurts, maybe we'll do that. He has expressed that interest in starting, going back to, he sat down with me in spring training saying, look, he loves leverage. He loves the game. He loves the heat and he's super competitive out there. So he likes the ball when it really matters. So I think he's enjoyed his bullpen role, but he's always, periodically express, hey, I'd love to start if something opens up again. Or, and then when we got Loizaga back, he came to me again and just to say, hey, I'd love to try. And, but he's also, understands where we're at and willing to do whatever.
And we were looking at it because Jake did bring this up before we even heard you guys or saw him do it, is that his pitch mix when he's got the 4 starts in a row a couple of years ago, it was all fastball. It was like 60% fastball, where he's really been a 4-pitch mix pitcher to the different hands, but he's using way more in his arsenal as a reliever. So you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, the question will be is how well is he able to maintain his high level of stuff? I mean, I think the one thing that Michael's done really well the last couple of years is really develop really good fastball command. So that's why when he's out there, some days when he's 95, 6, 7, or even 92, 3, 4, he's able to be successful, usually because he has a presence on both sides of the plate, whether it be with the 4 seam, whether it be with the 2 seam. He's obviously got a really good slider and a solid changeup. So he definitely has the mix to do it, and I think the command of fastball to do it. It's just a matter of can he do it over the long haul and hold the significant stuff as a starting pitcher.
Cool.
For and kind of a similar topic, because there's been a lot of openers lately. For Brito and Vasquez, I mean, 2 guys that have been starting pitchers in the minor leagues the minor leagues this year. Is there something more philosophical than, hey, let's just try to, get around the other team's top hitters a couple times? Is there more belief in the opener than the Yankees have had, or is it just like this is kind of our all hands?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to win games and trying to, put guys in the best position possible. And on the days where it's lined up, where we've had a Hamilton or a King, feel like there's, it makes some sense, to do it and give yourself a good chance and put those guys, as they're kind of working their way and kind of establishing themselves and cutting their teeth at the big league level, a little bit of a better avenue for them.
Savvy won't have an opener tonight, right?
No.
So is there, I mean, if the goal is still to win games and be in the thick of it and attack the end of this season, I mean, is there a short hook? I mean, not too short a hook. We had 3 innings last night. So we need to get, hopefully Sevy can get us into the middle innings, but give us something there. Just,
being a little short. Like, we're all right. We can kind of go one inning with every guy. Kinger will be available on some level, but, probably prefer to stay away from him today. But, we got to get something there.
Is Blake scratching his head? Like, are we just rolling the same dice with Sevy, or is there something new? At one point they did the stretch.
That's the thing about it is, we felt like kind of a number of times, like in between, like we've made some really good progress and are seeing some really good things, like especially in some of his bullpens I know that he's had. They've come out of those thinking, wow, he was really good today. We made some solid adjustments. Obviously coming out of the All-Star break, he pitched he had a decent outing and, kind of altered his delivery and his setup a little bit that we think was beneficial for him. But then it just comes down to, execution, and then that confidence and conviction that kind of follows that when you struggle a little bit, has been the thing with him.
Do you do anything as we were talking about this earlier today, as the manager, the pitching coach, Blake's going to do the tweaks. Like, you're not going to walk up to Sevy and be like, hey, why don't you snap it a little harder? Like, we're not in that era anymore. Like, that's not how things work. But I guess as like a manager, a ball player, and a person, to see what Sevy's going through, do you take it upon yourself to pull him aside and be like, hey, head up, man, or like, we're going to get through this, or like, I don't know how you approach it, because I also know there's a ball player side to you that, this is Sevy's hitting free agency, and timing in baseball is one of the toughest things you could come into, that he's got to have a lot of stuff going through his head right now.
Yeah, no question. You try to be there and kind of be supportive through it. The thing about Sevy is he's such a solid person, like in his personal life and who he is. And so, like, as rough a time as I know he's going through professionally and having never really struggled like this in baseball, I also feel like more than most, he's also equipped to handle it. And I know and then on top of that, like, I know he's putting everything into it from a work standpoint, from trying to unlock it, unleash it, figure it out. I think that's really all you can ask from him there, and then knowing that the person is equipped to handle this adversity that he's clearly going through.
Yeah, it's not. Because how many times in the middle of the season can you go look at the mechanics? You look at Aroldis Chapman now, and he was really struggled last year. And the years before that, he ran into struggles. His velo looked like it was going down, so he was inventing new pitches. And now his velo's way back up, and someone in the offseason just changed his mechanics and put a hitch in his giddy-up, that like Joe Kelly double pump. Kenley does as well. Is it hard to make those adjustments? Because it seems like Sevy's fastball, if it's bell tie, it's just fucking smacked. And if it's at the letters, it's a nice strike. And I don't know if that's location.
Yeah, I agree.
Mechanics.
I'd like to see him have more of a presence up in the zone with his fastball, because I think that does, set up his secondary a little bit better too. But then really, I think the biggest issue for him though has been command with it. Like, so he's had a lot of times where he's going down away with a pitch, kind of yanks it and pulls it down and he's run into a lot of hot zones. And then on top of that, probably being a little unlucky with things where they haven't missed, when they have gotten a pitch, like, which does happen every now and then. They don't, it seems like every time he makes a mistake or misses with something, it's put in play with authority. But and that's all probably a product of, struggling a little bit within his delivery there for a while, and then making a little subtle adjustment that with the effort of simplifying. But ultimately it's coming down to that execution. And if he does that, he should be able to have success, because again, like, we're not looking at a pitcher that, man, stuff's just way down. Is he all right? What's wrong? That's not really the case.
No, it's just Yeah, location or who knows? I don't know. It's Coney was saying, or the broadcast saying, telegraphing, like not tipping his pitches, but just by the body language, batters are saying they can
Just
jump
opening
pitches,
up a little earlier.
Yeah, everyone's got a
Right.
lot of
I think that's possible. Like the delivery being a little off, where they're getting a really good look at it.
Yeah.
All
right. Changing up a little bit, I want to ask, when it comes to statistics, obviously the public has a ton of databases, a ton of websites we can look at. Do you guys look at any of the public statistics, or is it all in-house numbers and figures that you get handed by the analytics team?
Yeah. So Travis Chapman, for example, our infield coach, who kind of keeps me up to date on our infielder defensive measurements and how they're doing. And he does pay attention to a couple outside to see how they're lining up and things like that. So, yeah, probably a little bit. I don't necessarily pay that much attention to them, but I'm sure the people that are in the weeds with that are looking outside and looking inside and seeing how we compare and maybe where something's flawed or not, or where we can do something better.
I hate to sour a nice conversation, but like you had a quote yesterday about the base running that kind of made fans scratch their head, saying that the Yankees aren't below average base running team, when all the metrics, like there's like 4 different ones have you guys bottom 5 with steals and without steals of outs on the base path. So it's that's been something what
was the misquote you just said of me? How'd you put that?
I think your quote was that you don't think the Yankees are below average base running team. It's just that the mistakes happen in close games.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Below average. I wasn't asked if we were. I said the base running blunders. So obviously we had a one yesterday that pisses you off, right? Makes you upset, and when you're struggling, and when for the most part in a lot of close games, not last night not being one of those, those are things that clearly get magnified, and we got to do a better job of. What I'm saying is, I think outs on the base, how do you measure below or above average? I mean, there's teams that are, taking extra bases, that speeds their game, that steals a bunch of bases, but also maybe makes a bunch of outs on the base. So it's like, how do you rank all that? What I was saying is, bad outs on the base, I think we're in the bottom 10, which isn't doesn't change what happened last night, and not being something we want to do.
They have outs on the bases, which is, it doesn't include pickoffs, steals, or force play. So it's just all like extra base taken and all that. And that is just a counting stat, not a percentage. But the Yankees are at 37, which puts you tied for, it's the opposite, bottom 10. But then they also have like extra base taken, and it's not the fastest team. So I think the Yankees are below average there as well. Where you're right, some teams have a lot of outs on the bases, but they also get there a lot.
I think by foot speed, we're one of the slowest, right?
I would have to guess, yeah.
Yeah. So look, we're trying to minimize mistakes, and for last night's, obviously Harrison made a mistake out there. We had a conversation about it and we move on. But like some of these mistakes, Harrison's comes from a place of actually working his butt off out there and made a mistake. So, when you're going through a tough stretch and and then you have a game where you get blown out, it gives you something to be mad at.
When taking it a more holistic conversation on this, because I was talking with a friend of ours who had a 10-year career in Major League Baseball and is still actively part of the game. And I was saying that the Yankees base running hasn't been great, but we just played the Rays, we played the Astros, the White Sox, and base running in general, like the outs first and third out at third base across the league, it looks sloppy. And his point was, and I want to know where you stand as just a veteran that played, who your dad played, your grandpa played, was that you can get promoted to the majors now if your raw talent is there. and your fundamentals are not. And he said back in the day, it was like you needed to know base running, situational defense way more than nowadays.
I think there's some truth to that. We try and, especially being in New York and the Yankees, we try to, have finished products as much as we can. So we're usually not rushing guys. Especially, who we feel like are big time prospects. I would say there's probably some truth to what that says, to what whoever you're talking to says. I would also say that we always think back when I played, man, we never did. Well, I remember, for example, because we had a ground ball to shortstop, guy thrown out at third, which has happened to us for us against a couple other teams.
Yeah, the Rays and White Sox also did the same thing. I think the Astros
it
as well.
all the time. And I remember when I was playing, I thought it happened all the time too. And the coaches and stuff we played with said, "Oh, that never happened when we played." And it's like you kind of romanticize how fundamentally sound everything was back when I played or back when I did it. So while I don't necessarily disagree wholeheartedly with you, I think there's a little bit of romanticizing when we played kind of thing.
Yeah, that's probably true. I will say when Rizzo came over and like his baseball IQ on defense, it was a whole nother element that I hadn't seen since the older Yankee teams of like, oh shit, this guy is thinking the game 2 steps ahead of the play. And it was weird how foreign it felt. And Rizzo was awesome at it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and we went through a couple of years where we didn't have necessarily the best defenders over there at first, but Riz's nuance of obviously plays the position really well, but his nuance and kind of intangible stuff he brings defensively over there at first is pretty special.
Last thing I got quick. You were very complimentary to the Braves last night, and for obvious reasons. I mean, that team's been the class of baseball this year. They've been, one of the class of baseball the last few years. One of my favorite quotes as we've got thrust into the baseball world is like, sometimes the guys on the other team drive big trucks too. Like, is it just a matter of like, they got dudes like that when you look at them, or is there something different you see with the Braves holistically or approach-wise that's different, or is it just a matter of, man, they got a lot of guys?
Yeah, I think they're just a load. They've got 5-star to superstar level players in their 20s in the prime of their career that are just like, and then they've done a really nice job, I think, with their supporting cast. So Nicky Lopez steps in there last night and is a complete thorn in our side. You think that Vaughn Grissom or whoever's going to win the job out of spring training, they bring in Orlando Arcia, who turns into an all-star and ultimately wins the job. So some of the subtle things they've done on their roster to supplement what is, as good a core, as we've probably seen in a while, frankly. That's been impressive. They're probably not as dominant pitching wise, as they've been in a couple of years, but from a position player group, it's pretty special group.
Yeah.
It's be fun.
They're good.
2 more against them. Boo. Well, yeah. All right. Go enjoy. Sevy tonight. Right. Hopefully he gets fastball up, swings and misses.
Let's go do it.
Tell him to hit the mascot on the first pitch of the game. just please, for me, I can't have.
Yeah, for me too. Blooper's been up my ass.
Blooper Blooper is a big rival of Jake. So I think a fastball, maybe 20 feet wide, first pitch from Sevy might help a ton. And that's being honest. And I think 10% of you at least agrees.
I just want Sevy to go out and pitch well. Let's get it done.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Boone.
See you guys.
See ya. And there was Boone. We just chatted with him. A little bit, Jake, of a subdued tone from him and from us. I appreciated the level of acceptance he seemed to have in the situation where I said, are you going to start prepping for 2024? And he was like, well, I think we're going to do that anyway because it'll help us win, or for that reason you said. Like, he wouldn't like say it.
Yeah.
That reason you said, where we're bad and we're not going to win. But that's in
Good
play.
move by him. He didn't say it.
So tips his hand. Like, they've been saying Pereira is probably going to come up. It seems like Everson Pereira is going to come up, and we get to see what he's about. So maybe I get the September I want. Thought he was kind of candid there with us.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I feel like after each bad loss, Braves, Marlins, we get these tweets that are like, and thanks to Vizio, by the way.
Yeah, appreciate
we get these tweets that are like, you boys better rip into him this week. It's like, what? Like, about Clay Holmes giving up that many runs? Like, about, about the Braves being, like, just a lot better? So, I don't know. Like, I was happy he actually named Pereira because we really only got the report. Who was that, from Clappish or someone that was like, they will call up Pereira, but we haven't heard any of the Yankees say like Pereira's really in play yet.
Even if it was the most obvious in the world, like we come to expect the Yankees to never say the name of a prospect that might come up later.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, we were just laughing a little bit about some of the base running stuff because the Yankees are a bad base running team.
So it's a good semantical game by him. His quote was that we have the same amount of blunders as other teams that are like mental mistakes. In turn, he's saying, I admit, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean I'm saying we're not bad. But the other reasons we're bad are just because we're really slow.
Yeah.
That's what he kind of said there.
Yeah.
It was like, the metrics probably say we're pretty bad at base running. That's because we're the slowest sprint speed team.
Right.
And that's not his, that's almost like him saying, Cash, could I get some more to work with? Because he doesn't choose.
Yeah, that's where I was wondering if he was going to give, remember, who's still celebrating? Remember when Joel Sherman was starting to go off the deep end on Twitter and he was like, the Yankees are not athletic and they're not lefty. And then like 6 months later, everyone was like, I think Joel Sherman was right.
Well, what happened was they traded for two righties.
Yeah. I was wondering if he was going to talk about the Braves' athleticism at all, because you guys know I was telling you Austin Riley running first to third last night, up 8-2, was one of the hardest I've seen someone go first to third this year. His sprint speed is higher than I thought. He's 70th percentile, which I didn't have for Austin Riley. But that also made me wonder, sometimes we talk about the Yankee fan brainwashing. Like, I don't expect a player like Austin Riley to be athletic because he's powerful. But he's athletic. He's young. He's healthy. That I don't know.
I'll do the same routine for you that I've done for 3 years running now. The Braves core are a bunch of healthy, everyday players, and their coaching staff is the oldest coaching staff in Major League Baseball, who fully rejects analytics at certain times.
Whenever they want.
And does it how they know baseball. The Braves have now played 118 games. Acuna has led off 118 games. Olsen or Ozzie have batted second in all but one of the games. And Riley has played third base and batted third. 110 games. So pretty routine there.
Some balance, playing every day.
And recently, since July 23rd, every game besides yesterday has been Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen. But Albies just went down.
Albies missed his first game.
So just some routine. And maybe we just need Boone to get a little older and have an older coaching staff.
Age. We're all aging this year. It's the good news.
Yeah, every single one of us. Well, don't do it. All right. Appreciate you, Arnie. Go Yanks. Tell 'em, Grams.
Go Yankees.
Nice job, Beeps.
What were you going to say? Dead people?
Yeah, people die.
I thought that. Thought that might be the loophole.
Comatose. That's not. Do you stay the same age technically?